Well, demand for tickets to the World Cup has sent the cost of tickets soaring. FIFA says the current average attendance is on track to set a record, but some people are getting a very unpleasant surprise about the potential downside of buying a ticket on secondary market websites like StubHub. And this is information you may want to consider the next time you buy tickets to a big event months in advance. So joining us now live is Stephen Parker with the National Independent Venue Association, which is part of an effort to get Congress to make tougher new laws about reselling tickets. Stephen, thank you so much for taking the time to be with us.
Thanks for having us. We appreciate it.
Of course. And let's just go ahead and start with the issue involving World Cup tickets. And it involves the use of what's known as speculative or ghost tickets. Can you explain for us what's happening?
So during the World Cup, but also every single day in the U.S., even when the World Cup isn't happening, there are listings for tickets that are posted on resale platforms like StubHub that don't exist. Those tickets are not in the possession of sellers. The resale platforms are not verifying whether these tickets are actually in the hands of those sellers, who they're not even sharing the identity of with the people that are buying them. And ultimately what happens is, if the ticket is not delivered, or a ticket is delivered to that fan that doesn't work, then that fan is outside the game. They are outside the match. They are outside the concert and not able to get in. And in many times they are paying for hotels, airfare, ground transportation, food, and so many other things that will never be refunded, even if they get back the full cost of that ticket. And ultimately, what we're finding with the World Cup is that sometimes people aren't getting back the full cost of that ticket, even if they don't get into a show. That is the problem that's happening with the World Cup, but it's also a problem that's happening every day here in America, given the lack of regulation.
You say every day. So when we're talking about how common this problem is, this is obviously growing in how often you're seeing this?
It is, and it happens when the World Cup is over. We will go back to having independent venues like the Anthem and Songbird and others around the DC area that will have people show up to their box offices thinking that they had a ticket or not having a ticket delivered, and they are upset with that box office because they didn't get it. And then when we help them figure out how to get their ticket, it turns out they bought it on resale and they never got it. This is affecting venues and sporting events and shows of every size, all the way down to 100 capacity rooms, all the way up to 75,000 capacity stadiums. And ultimately, StubHub isn't doing anything about it. Yeah. They are saying that speculative tickets aren't on their platform, but we know from what's happening right now with the World Cup that they are. And ultimately, we think that Congress and states and the District of Columbia and other local governments should do something about it. And the District of Columbia is right now trying to do something about it.
Yeah, and you want to mention, I know you were talking about some of those efforts. Can you explain a little bit about what's being done to combat this, specifically in DC?
For sure. So in DC right now, there's a bill called the Resale Act that is moving through the DC Council. That bill cleared an initial hurdle on Monday. We expect that bill to be heard before the entire council soon, before this session ends. And ultimately, what we are seeing right now around the World Cup can be addressed by the District of Columbia this month. And the way that they can address it is by putting in place really two important things. One, banning the sale of speculative or ghost tickets, which the bill that they're considering would do. And they also can put in place a ticket resale price cap. The World Cup in 2022 did not have the issues that we are having right now in the United States. And that is because that host country, Qatar, introduced a ticket resale price cap that banned the sale of tickets above face value. What DC is going to do for concerts in the District of Columbia is that very same thing, except they will allow for fees and other potential items to be added on, but they will cap what can be charged for ticket resale. That is what DC should do in the coming days, and that's also what every single state around the country and Congress should consider doing in the coming months ahead. It is an embarrassment what is happening right now with the United States in the spotlight, and ultimately, when we get the next World Cup, if a ticket resale price cap is passed around the country, we will not have this problem.
And, you know, when we're talking about these events, and you mentioned not just the World Cup, other events as well, sometimes really the only option for people if they want to go to something is to buy those tickets on a secondary market. If that's the case, you know, until some kind of cap nationwide, like you're saying here, is implemented, what advice do you have for buyers? What should they be watching for in the meantime?
In the overwhelming amount of shows, tickets are still available from the box office. For many sporting events, tickets are still available from the box office. And if tickets are still available, oftentimes the lowest price you can get is from the box office. But I just want to say that a ticket resale price cap, if it is put in place, will still allow for deep discounts on tickets on the resale market. So what we would encourage people to do is, one, look for don't click on the first link. Look for the box office of where you're trying to buy from, or go to the artist website, or go to the actual sporting team's website to find those tickets. But if you are going to buy from resale, unfortunately, I can't really give you good advice, because all resale platforms, you don't know the name of the seller or the business that's selling it to you. You don't know where they're located, and you don't know their track record of delivering tickets to you. And so what we would just say is be vigilant. If the show is sold out, try to find the lowest price that you can and hope and pray that that ticket is delivered to you. Because unfortunately, what we're seeing right now with the World Cup often, and what we see many times every day in America, is that those tickets aren't being delivered. And unfortunately, until Congress and state legislatures and the DC Council acts, there is no such thing as true protection.
Yeah, just don't shell out just enormous amounts of money for something that you just may never get back. Stephen Parker with the National Independent Venue Association, thank you so much for taking the time to join us this afternoon.
Thank you.
All right, take care.